Hi everyone, welcome to the class. Today we'll start with the Unit 1 of NCERT syllabus from the 12th standard. It is solid state, a very important unit with respect to physical chemistry branch. So solid state will come under the physical chemistry branch. So welcome to the class 1. Now we'll observe the weightage of the unit first. So before going to the concepts in the unit in detail. Now, if we take the unit solid state, so with respect to PU board pattern, the Karnataka Pre-University board pattern, so the unit solid state is having 8 hours of teaching, so with a weightage of 7 marks for your final exam. And if you see the partition of marks, so it will be 1 2-mark question and there will be 1 5-mark question. So 2-mark question of part B and the 5-mark question of part D, 4th main. So we'll have questions from the solid state. So this is the weightage of the unit, 7 marks for maximum to secure 70 mark. So is a 10% weightage for your final exam. So again, a very good weightage unit. So to start with very important concepts so from the unit. Now we'll try to learn the basic introduction regarding the states of matter, and we'll discuss the general characteristics of solid state. So and we'll keep on extending the state of matter, that is solid state, in detail. So by learning its classification, the arrangement, and so its particular characteristics in detail. So we'll start with the basic introduction. So by recalling the different states of matter. So we know that with physical classification of matter, the different states of matter if we take. So it is solids, liquids, and gases. So with respect to the basic physical classification of matter, so we know that matter under physical classification is divided into solids, liquids, and gases. And we know that liquids and gases together, they are called as fluids. So as they exhibit the nature of fluidity, that is the movement. So due to their movement or so the moving nature, so the two states of matter is considered as fluids. The reason to consider the movement is whatever the particles present in the liquids and gases, so due to their free movement, so the respective state of matter is tend to flow. As a result of its flowing nature or moving nature, so these two matters are called as fluids. Whereas if we take the solids, so which is the concerned information of our unit, so solids are rigid in nature. Solids are said to be rigid. So, and if we keep on looking, so what are all the reasons for this rigidity? So the molecules present in the solid, so they are closely packed and their positions are fixed. So whatever the strong attractive force is there, so is holding the constituent particles in a closed structure, closed packed structure. So because of that reason, so the particles present in the solid will not move and they are rigid in nature. So the rigidity for solids, or why solids are rigid, if we consider, so it is because so they are closely packed. Whatever the constituent particles in a solid, if we take, they are closely packed with each other. So during their close packing, so we are going to see the particles position is fixed. So, and all these closed arrangement with a fixed position is due to the strong attractive forces between the particles. Due to the strong force of attraction or strong attractive forces. So all these information will explain so why solids are rigid when compared with the liquids and gases, so which are regarded as fluids. So with this basic introduction, now we learn the general characteristics of the solids. Now, if we observe the general characteristics of the solid state, as we all know that, so they have the definite mass, volume, and the shape. So solid state so is having a definite mass, volume, and a definite shape. And if we take the attractive forces and the molecular distances, intermolecular distances. So as we have learned, so intermolecular forces are strong in the case of solid state. They have a strong intermolecular forces. And if we measure the distance between the particles, so the interparticle distance or intermolecular distances are very short. Their intermolecular distance, if it is considered and measured and compared with the liquids and the gases, so intermolecular distances are shorter in the case of the solid state. And if we take the constituent particles present in the solid state, so what will be the constituent particles? So it will be either atoms, molecules, or ions, so will constitute the respective matter. The constituent particles of the solid state, so it may be an atom, molecules, atoms, molecules, or ions, so will build the respective solid state. And if we take such constituent particles, so they always have fixed position. So which is not observed in the case of liquids and gases. The constituent particles present in the solid state, so they have fixed position, and as a result of their fixed position, so they cannot move. So they can only oscillate on their mean position. That is, whatever their original position is there, in that respective position, they can oscillate or they can vibrate. So that is only possible for the particles of the solid state, whereas for the liquids and gases, so they tend to move. So as a result of their fixed position, so they can oscillate on their mean position. And so if we observe, so as a result of their definite mass, volume, and shape, and all these compact arrangement, so they are practically non-compressible in their nature, and they are rigid, so among the states of matter. So with all these particular properties, so we can conclude that those solids are incompressible or non-compressible in the nature. So due to their closed compact arrangement with strong attractive force and shorter intermolecular distances, So practically we cannot compress the solids, so they are practically incompressible. And if we observe the nature of the state of matter, so solids are rigid in nature. So this is with respect to few simple general characteristics of solids. So everyone knows it. So just we are recollecting the information to start the solid state in detail. So these points can be remembered to recollect the general characteristics or about the features of the solid state. Now we'll move on to the classification of solids. Now we'll learn with the classification of solids. Now based on the nature of the ordered arrangement of the constituent particles in the solids, if we take, so the solids based on this are classified into two types. So they are crystalline solids and amorphous solids. If we take the nature of arrangement of constituent particles of the solid, so we are classifying the solids into two types. So they are crystalline solids and amorphous solids. So crystalline solids and amorphous solids as a basic classification on the nature of arrangement of particles we'll try to learn. So then again, crystalline solids are further divided based on the nature of constituent particle present in it and the nature of attractive force. So that we'll try to consider in detailed classification of crystalline. Now we'll try to understand what is a crystalline solid. So how will be the arrangement of particles in it? So what characteristic features will be considered to make the crystalline solids, so which are different from the other type of solids as amorphous solids. So we'll learn individually first and we'll try to have a comparison of these two solids, so to recollect the information again. Now we'll start with the first one. So it is crystalline solids. The points of differences are very important. So along with that, so as a differentiation question, you may expect, and there are few concepts in the learning of characteristics of crystalline and amorphous. So you can expect it as a reasoning question also. Hence, focus the concept. So classification can be expected as a 2-mark question. So we'll start with the crystalline solids in detail. Now, if we take first, so as the nature of arrangement is very important in classifying, that is in classifying the crystalline and amorphous. So first we'll give the information regarding that arrangement of particles. So both in the case of crystalline and amorphous, so there is an ordered arrangement. So but that ordered arrangement, how it will be there, so and how the geometrical shape of the molecule is there if we consider. So in the case of crystalline solids, so they have a definite geometrical shape. Crystalline solids, so they have a definite geometrical, that is 3-dimensional structure of a particular ordered arrangement of particles if we take. So the geometrical shape of crystalline solids is definite. And the reason for this geometrical shape, so which is as a definite for the crystalline solids, is due to ordered arrangement of constituent particles. Due to the ordered arrangement of the constituent particles, so in the case of crystalline solids, so they possess a definite geometrical shape. And so that arrangement of particles if we measure or if we learn in the entire arrangement of the crystal, so it repeats regularly and a periodic repetition of constituent particles over the entire crystals we can able to observe. So hence, so crystalline solids possess long range order. They possess long range order refers to the repetition of ordered arrangement of particles will be seen in the entire crystal. So due to the regular and periodic repetition of constituent particles over entire crystal, so they possess a long range order. The arrangement so seen in the crystalline solids is a regular and periodic repetition. So as a result of that, so all the crystalline solids, they possess a long range order. So due to this ordered arrangement and regular periodic repetition of particles, so if we take the melting point of crystalline solids, so all the constituent particles will melt at a specific temperature. As a result, they have a sharp melting point. The sharp melting point so refers to, so at a particular melting point temperature, so all the constituent particles will melt. So the regular arrangement is going to disturb and the sharp melting point of the crystalline solid is seen. Whereas if you see in the amorphous, so it is not having a sharp melting point, so it is going to melt in a given range of temperature. So in the two specified temperature range, so the crystal is going to melt. So that is in the case of amorphous, whereas in the case of crystalline solids, so they exhibit a sharp melting point. And so there is a specific property, so which is to differentiate a crystalline with amorphous, a very important one. All the crystalline solids are said to be anisotropic in nature. Anisotropic. Now, iso refers to same. So with respect to some of the measurement of physical properties, such as the refractive index, conductivity, etc. So if they have the same values when measured in different direction, then it is called as isotropic. If it is different when measured in different direction, then it is called as anisotropic in the arrangement. So for example, so if we take in the crystalline solids, the ordered arrangement of the particles, if we consider these are the constituent particles present in the crystalline solid. Just assume, so this will be the constituent arrangement of particles, if we say. So these, whatever the spherical shaped structures I am writing, so with the red and orange color, so we'll consider as the ordered arrangement of constituent particles, so in the packing. So like this, you assume the entire arrangement of particles is seen in the crystal. Now, to just observe, so I am going in this direction. So whatever the particles, if you see in the direction, you try to consider. So I am observing all the orange color spheres in this arrangement. And say for example, I am going in this direction. So you can see I'm getting an orange color, red color, orange color, red color, like that, different particles in this direction. Similarly, if I measure in any other direction, again the particles I'm not seeing as same. So hence So we are going to see the different arrangement when we go in different direction. So as though the arrangement of particles is regular in the case of crystalline solid, so the properties which are measured in different direction will be different. So such particular nature is said to be anisotropic. Now anisotropic refers to some of the physical properties. You can mention few examples to learn or to remember some of the physical properties of the respective solids. So that is melting point or conductivity. Such few physical properties, if you take and if you measure, so they have different values when measured in different direction. As for crystalline solids, so these physical properties, so if it is measured in different direction, so they are getting with a different value. So that shows that the crystalline solids are anisotropic in nature. Whereas the amorphous solids, so will exhibit isotropic nature. So this is in simple to remember. So just to focus that in a clear way, so will be helpful for you to remember and to differentiate with respect to amorphous and crystalline. And few more interesting properties of the crystalline solids if we take, we'll observe another one. So it is, if we take a sharp cutting tool, so any sharp edged tool if you take, and with the help of that, if you cut the crystalline solids, so if the crystalline solids are cut by using any sharp edged tools, any sharp cutting tools if you take, and if you cut the crystalline solids, so in their cut, always crystalline solids so will form plain and smooth surfaces. Plain and smooth surfaces will be formed. So when a crystalline solid is cut by using any sharp edged tools. Whereas if you cut an amorphous solid, they give irregular shapes. Similarly, so if we measure some of the properties such as standard enthalpy of fusion. So standard enthalpy change of fusion. So if we take for crystalline solids, the standard enthalpy of fusion will have definite values for crystalline solids due to their ordered arrangement. So because of all these reasons and the properties shown by the crystalline solids, so crystalline solids are said to be true solids. Crystalline solids are said to be true solids. So because of all these characteristics as a definite geometrical shape, a long range order, sharp melting point, anisotropic nature, and so whatever the other characteristics, if it is computed together, so the crystalline solids among the other type is said to be a true solid. So if we take such true solids as examples, so few examples of crystalline solids if we take, so you can give any ionic compounds, that is sodium chloride, potassium nitrate, quartz. So quartz is different, glass is different, that you try to consider. So glass will be amorphous, quartz will be crystalline solid. So that and all we'll try to learn in the continuation of the class. Copper, naphthalene, etc. So all these are crystalline solids. Any covalent ionic, molecular, hydrogen bonded, any other examples of the solids you can give. So all will be easy to remember. So, but try to concentrate on their information of characteristic features so that a comparison will be easy for you to remember. Just to recall, so crystalline solids will have a definite geometrical shape. So they have a long range order. So they have a sharp melting point, and they are said to be anisotropic in nature. And by using a sharp edged tools, if we cut the crystalline solids, so they results in a plain and smooth surfaces. So the enthalpy of fusion, the standard enthalpy change of fusion. So we learned with respect to phase transition, the three types of enthalpy changes in our thermodynamics of first PUC. So you can recall. So it is enthalpy of vaporization, the standard enthalpy of fusion, and standard enthalpy of sublimation. So we learned what is the standard enthalpy of fusion there in detail. So such standard enthalpy of fusion of a solid, it is 1 mole of the solid to fuse into a respective change in the process. So at its melting point, so if we take that value, so they have a definite value of enthalpy of fusion. So because of all these reasons, so the crystalline solids are said to be the true solids. So they are said to be a true solids. Now, with the same type of the information, so we'll try to understand the second classification of solid as amorphous solids. So if we consider the geometrical shape, so crystalline solids, so they have a regular shape, a regular definite geometrical shape, whereas the amorphous solids, so they have irregular shapes. Amorphous solids, so they have irregular shapes. And if we observe what is the reason for this, so the ordered arrangement is not complete, so like that of the crystalline solids. So because there is no ordered arrangement as in the case of crystalline solids. Because of this, so they are having irregular shapes. And so the same ordered arrangement if we take, so crystalline solids, they have a long range order, so whereas the amorphous solids possess short range order. The order of arrangement of constituent particles, the periodic repetition of constituent particles, so will be last only for a shorter distances in the case of amorphous solids. That is, whatever the regular and periodic repetition of particles if you take, that regular periodic repetition of constituent particles, so will last only for a shorter distance in the case of amorphous solids. So because of this shorter distance, so to observe the periodic repetition of the constituent particles, so they possess a short range order. If we observe the crystalline solids, due to their ordered periodic repetition of constituent particles, they sharp at a particular temperature. So hence they have sharp melting points. So sharp melting point is seen for crystalline solid. Whereas amorphous solids, if we take, so they gradually melt over a temperature range. They gradually melt over a temperature range. Then the property of isotropic and anisotropic. So as different type of particles are coming in the different direction when it is measured for crystalline solid. So as a result, their physical properties observed values are different in different directions, since they are anisotropic in nature, whereas amorphous solids, so they are isotropic in nature. Amorphous solids, so they exhibit the property of isotropy, or they are isotropic in nature. So because some of the measured physical properties such as the conductivity, refractive index, so etc., so have same values when measured along different directions. Some of the physical properties such as melting point, conductivity, etc., so will have same value when measured in different directions. So because of getting this same value in different direction, so these amorphous solids so are said to exhibit the property of isotropy. Hence, they are isotropic in nature. Then, so if we cut the amorphous solid by using any sharp-edged tool, so if the solid is cut by using any sharp-edged tool, so in the case of crystalline, we have seen plain and smooth new surfaces are formed, or new surfaces are generated. Here, whatever the new surfaces are generated will be with irregular surfaces. In the case of crystalline, plain and smooth surfaces are formed. Here, so we are going to see the irregular surfaces are formed. So once the solid is cut by using any sharp-edged tool. Sharp-edged tool to cut the respective solid. Then, so if we take the standard enthalpy change of fusion for the melting of 1 mole of the solid at its fusion or at melting point temperature, the measured values of standard enthalpy of fusion so is not definite as in the case of the crystalline solids. So they have definite enthalpies of fusion, whereas they do not have, that is amorphous solids, they do not have definite values. Again, this is due to the ordered arrangement of particle is not seen over the entire crystal. So because of that reason, they do not have the standard enthalpy of fusion with a definite values. Then by observing all these properties, so amorphous solids are said to be pseudo solids. So which is a very important point to learn. So crystalline solids are said to be true solids, whereas the amorphous solids are pseudo solids. So we know that the meaning of pseudo is false, as majority of the properties are not in matching with the regular physical state of the matter as solid. So they are considered as pseudo solids. So the one more very important reason to consider why amorphous solids as pseudo solids is because so it is with another name, so you can easily remember. So these are also called as supercooled solids. Supercooled solids. That is, like gases and liquids, these amorphous solids will have a tendency to flow. As though the flow you cannot observe over a direct in short. So you need to observe for a very long duration to observe the change. So for example, so the old glass panes, if you observe, at the bottom of the glass pane, the thickness is more, so that the sliding of the glass panes will be very difficult in the windows and all. So if you observe, so that is due to, so the sunlight is passing on to the respective glass window for a longer duration of time. So heating, cooling, which happens for many a times. So over a particular months or years, so you are going to see that the particles are slowly settle at the bottom. So the thickness is more there. So such a particular tendency to flow. Generally, solids will not flow. They are not regarded as fluids. But in the solids, the amorphous solids will have a tendency to flow, but it is not like liquids and gases. A fast rate of movement is observed with the particles. So due to that reason, so as a tendency of amorphous solids to flow, so it is considered as supercooled solids. If we take few simple examples to remember the amorphous solids, so we'll take a glass, plastic, rubber, starch, any biomolecules you can take, PVC, fiberglass, etc. So all are amorphous in nature. Now, so amorphous, they have irregular shape, they have short range order, they gradually melt over a temperature, they are isotropic in nature, they form irregular surfaces when they cut by using sharp edged tool, and they do not have definite values of standard enthalpies of fusion. So with all these reasons and one more, supercooled solids has a tendency to flow as though the rate of flow is very slow for the amorphous solid. So they are regarded as pseudo solids or supercooled solids. So there is some more interesting information regarding a few more conversion aspects. So that we'll try to observe with an example. If you take certain crystalline solids, if you keep on heating and cooling for many a times, their ordered arrangement is going to be disturbed, and they slowly converted into an amorphous form. So such examples of solids are there. So the best example, if we take quartz, so we know that quartz is crystalline solid. Quartz is a crystalline solid. So if you heat the quartz, a crystalline solid, so which is having ordered arrangement with the constituent particles of silicon and oxygen. So which is with these constituent particle, which is having an ordered arrangement. If you keep on heating the respective solid, if you heat to its melting temperature, melting point temperature, and you allow to cool rapidly, that is a sudden decrease of temperature for the melted solid if you do, and if you keep on repeating the process for many a times, so then the quartz is going to convert it into a glass, so where the glass is amorphous. A crystalline solid may be converted into an amorphous solid, so with repeated heating and allowed to cool. So heating should be to its nearly melting point temperature, followed by rapid cooling. So if such a particular process is continued for many a times, so then its ordered arrangement will be disturbed and it will be converted into amorphous. This may be asked as a question. You can consider this information as a note. So when a crystalline solid will be converted into an amorphous solid, with an example if it is explained. So if we observe such question, so if any crystalline solids if we take, and if it is heated to a melting point temperature followed by a rapid cooling, so its regular ordered arrangement, whatever it is there, is going to be disturbed. Because of the disturbance in the regular ordered arrangement, so they are going to form an amorphous solid. Example, quartz will be converted into glass. So where quartz is crystalline solid, whereas glass is an amorphous solid. So due to its disturbance in the ordered arrangement, so quartz will be converted into an amorphous solid glass. Like this, we can take many examples. So these will be very simple for you to learn, but try to remember with differentiation pattern. Just to recall, we'll consider and we'll compare with crystalline solid ones. Now, if you take in the case of amorphous and crystalline, the first, so crystalline, they have regular definite geometrical shape, whereas amorphous is having irregular shape. Crystalline solids have long range order, whereas amorphous solids, they have short range order. crystalline solids will melt at a definite temperature, that is sharp melting point. So whereas amorphous, they gradually melt over a temperature range. Crystalline solids are anisotropic in nature, whereas amorphous are isotropic in nature. With the sharp-edged tool, if crystalline solids are cut, so they form plain and smooth surfaces, whereas amorphous solids will form irregular surfaces. The enthalpies of fusion, so they have definite values, whereas the amorphous solids, they do not have definite values. So with general characteristics are considered together, the crystalline solids are said to be true solids, whereas the amorphous solids are said to be pseudo solids. With simple examples, you can remember that. Now, just as a differentiation to observe quickly, so just recall this information and observe the table. It's from the NCERT textbook. So if we take the shape, the crystalline solids, they have definite geometrical shape, whereas amorphous solids, they have irregular shape. So melting point, if we take, so crystalline solids, they have short melting point, whereas the amorphous solids, so they gradually softens over a range of temperature. That is, they melt over a range of temperature. So if we consider a cutting with a sharp edged tool, so crystalline solids will always form a new surfaces which are plain and smooth. So they results in the formation of plain and smooth surfaces, whereas amorphous solids will form irregular surfaces. If we take the standard enthalpy of fusion or heat of fusion, so they have definite values, that is crystalline solids, they have definite values, whereas amorphous solids, they do not have a definite heat of fusion. If we take some of the physical properties such as melting point, refractive index, etc. So crystalline solids, so they have different values when measured in different directions, hence they are said to be anisotropic in nature. Whereas amorphous solids, as their physical properties measured in different directions, so they show the same values, so they are said to be isotropic in nature. Then the nature, if we take, so with maximum characteristics satisfying the solid state, crystalline solids are said to be true solids, whereas the amorphous solids are said to be pseudo solids or supercooled liquids. And if we take the ordered arrangement of constituent particles, so long range order is seen in the crystalline solids, only a short range order, that is regular periodic repetition of constituent particles, seen only for a shorter range in the case of amorphous and for a longer range in the case of crystalline. The same points, so with examples you try to remember. So learn individual characteristics first, that is the properties of crystalline and amorphous, with a supportive reason you try to remember. Then after learning both, you please try to concentrate the partition between the two, that is as a differentiation between the two, you try to relate the types. Now in the next class, we'll try to understand in detail about crystalline solid with its further classification part. So thank you. So we'll continue in our next class.